glad I've got you gathered here, because I want to do data research.
Yeah?
Yeah, that was just me dressing up that I want to complain about my spell checker.
Ah.
So I mentioned this on the Jimquisition in an offhanded sentence, but I do want to ask you two if you've noticed if spell checkers and autocorrects have gotten shitter, because I want something else I want to blame AI for.
Oh, 1,000% they've gotten worse.
Right? I'm not imagining it.
No, you're not imagining that. They have gotten worse.
I'm having words auto-corrected to actual gibberish. Like, just mashes of consonants put together. And it's not like where I've accidentally mistyped something and the dictionary on the phone has remembered it forever, and when I try and get it to save words that it doesn't recognise, it never does. Like the fact that it only knows Jimq and doesn't know Jimquisition. No matter how many times I tell it Jimquisition, it tries to turn it to Jimq. Or that time I wrote Blackpool in all caps for a social media post for a wrestling gig, and then from then on forever, until I wiped all memory of it, it tried to spell Blackpool in all caps all the time, forever.
Yeah.
That was before I noticed it getting worse. Now it's nonsense words. And it'll tell me words like exsanguinate is wrong, and darling, no, don't tell me what words are real and what ones are not, because I know all real words and all made up words. I made up half of them. So don't get me on that.
My frustration with spell checkers and grammar checkers is, A, the built-in ones are getting worse, like your Google Drive and whatever ones are just getting worse. But I have another grievance to add to that, which is, I used to use, like, specific dedicated programs to check more granular spelling and grammar stuff just in case. And all of those programs that used to exist now also integrate AI features where they're going to rewrite your work on the fly based on generative AI from a dataset, meaning I've had to stop fucking using them because I'm like, I can't risk the fact that I'm trying to use this program to fix a grammar error and now it's got someone else's words in it from some fucking dataset it's scraped off the internet. Can you not just give me a fucking spelling and grammar check that is not, oh, we're going to secretly try and change your words without you noticing from our AI data? I'm like, no, fuck off.
It is frustrating when you know the word is right, and it brings up that thing. I just disabled the spell check, honestly.
This is the problem in my shoes, is I'll be confident I've spelt a word correctly, but know that I have a fucking spelling and shit disability, and look at a word and go, well, the computer's telling me it's spelt wrong. And surely the computer knows better than me, the disabled person who can't spell. But also, I don't fucking trust you anymore, spell checker, because you've gotten shit.
I mean, that's true of all things now. Because we don't know where AI is being implemented. And like you say, Laura, you don't know what it's insinuating and what it's, like, putting into your work now. There's been, like, teachers and that talking on social media about how kids are correcting the teachers because ChatGPT was chatting GP bullshit and told kids the wrong answers to things, and the kids are confidently telling the teachers, well, a computer told me, and computers are correct. And it's a terrible situation. The grammar shit that you mentioned as well, don't get me started. I'm having entire sentences rewritten as I'm typing. And they're not what I want to say. What I want to say is what I fucking said. It's why I said it. And it is taking multiple words now and reordering them and no.
It's interesting too because language is one of its great facets is its flexibility, especially English. English is an incredibly flexible language because the words, many of them, are either meaningless or cross so many meanings, and so you can do so many things with that language. And when you have a grammar check system like this that automatically rephrases things, it's a flattening of the creative options of that language. And it's actually what George Orwell warned us about.
Yeah.
It is the removal of language's ability to define things and explain them in alternate ways.
Well, you've helped it go from annoying to annoying and also terrifying.
Oh, good. I'm glad I could be here for that.
I always rely on you for that. If I need an extra dose of just, like, debilitating anxiety. Let's have a quick conversation with you. It's basically like having a chat with Hannibal Lecter, only a little more left-wing. Because obviously he was just sort of left of centre where you're a bit further than Hannibal Lecter. It is fucking shocking. And I've had enough. I tell you the other thing it does now, autocorrect, right? Time was, I'd type something and it would either be one of my great made up words or like the name of a brand or something that isn't recognised by the dictionary. And the autocorrect would correct it to something else, and I'd be annoyed, and I'd delete it and retype it, and the dictionary would go, fair enough. You've typed it a second time. I understand that's what you meant to type. Now it's doing it, and it's random. It does it with random things where it will not. I will have to manually add it because every time I try and type it, and I could do it 5 times. And it'll go, no, I don't think you meant to do that. And it's like, by the 5th time, if I've written a word the way I'm writing a word, I think it's safe to assume I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Also, did you hear about that lawsuit?
Which one?
There is a lawsuit going on over game development using Stable Diffusion, I believe is the type they're doing.
The image, the graphics.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. It's been approved to go to court. I forget the exact name of the person pursuing it, Kayla something. But they've said it can go ahead. And yeah, game devs are panicking. Any of the ones that have used this shit. I saw a big warning post from someone just being all, if you are in game dev, do not use this shit. Because you will be on the hook if this goes through. And good. I hope that it gets crushed and it distinctly fucks over any project using derivative AI. Because I should be able to spell Podquisition without being corrected.
Indeed, Podquisition is a real word, and we know that because welcome to Podquisition. That's a video game podcast, what we do, where we talk about games and stuff. We're here, we're doing it.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah. We've done stuff. I don't know how much stuff people have done. People have done some things.
I played 3 games. Technically 4.
I had one terrible experience that I can share with Laura.
Yeah, I'm guessing Steph hasn't seen this piece of shit yet.
No, but Steph will. Rest assured, Steph will.
Oh, I'm sure the time will come. Yeah, should we fucking talk about Borderlands?
Conrad, can you send me a link to a torrent?
I'll make sure you can. Do you want it with or without online casino ads?
I feel like the casino ads may make for better viewing, from what I've heard.
It truly does.
All right, lay it on us.
Okay, so I'm going to say a couple of things here that are charitable at the beginning.
Yeah, I have a few of them too.
I think that the set and environment designs and costume designing in this film are very solid.
I will say with the sets that occasionally it feels a bit like they had a quarry and a laser quest to film in, but, you know, I think they dress them up well.
This is a film with a $115 million budget, and when you look at the cast of performers, you know where that money went.
Oh, God, yeah. I don't think they do a bad job of capturing the vibe of the locations, but I will say I agree with you wholeheartedly on the costuming.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say I think the casting of people to physically be the person inside a costume, they do a very good job of making these characters look like the stylized video game characters.
I'll be honest with you. I think every role cast in this is a really good casting. Potentially.
My only one I really disagree on is Tiny Tina. I don't think Tiny Tina's great casting.
I heard a lot of people say Kevin Hart was miscast.
I don't think Kevin Hart was miscast necessarily.
He's kind of nothing casting.
That's in nothing of this.
What's interesting about the characters and the performances, from my point of view, is that they have made some adjustments to try and make Borderlands work better as a to B plotted film. And I don't think that those choices necessarily, with one exception, are bad. The actors are not supplied with a script that is worth anything.
No, I want to be clear. I think that the kid does, clearly does the best job possible with the material and plot given.
I think that's everyone. Everyone here does.
Yeah. While I can fundamentally still feel like the decision to cast a child as Tiny Tina, and specifically to have the Tiny Tina's plot be, I am a helpless character that requires shepherding and rescuing and saving and is not comfortable with an adult present, is a weird choice to make for Tiny Tina.
Yeah, I don't think that they did an effective enough job, because she isn't helpless. She's very clearly not helpless from, like, the second time you see her in the film, right? She's pretty capable.
But they don't do a good job of emphasizing it.
Exactly.
Because the thing is, there's some scenes where she throws around explosives, but there's an awful lot of the film that does feel like it is, which adult is going to grab her hand and run off to the next location this time?
Yep, and that's not necessary. I agree completely with that.
I say it's maybe not even the casting, but the decisions they make because they've casted children are interesting.
I'd like to ask another question. Are the great characters of Jim Conrad and Jonathan in it?
No.
Oh.
No,
because there were characters in Borderlands 2, were there not? Or am I misremembering?
There were, but they were based on you, Lindy, Topher Cantler, and who was the fourth? I can't.
That's
I just
not you
looked
and
at this
Jonathan.
the other day. No. The Podtoid reference mini quest in Borderlands 2 was referencing a cast of Podtoid that had not been together for a period of more than 2 years by the time it came out.
That sounds like game development timelines.
Well, it's indicative of most of the humor in Borderlands 2.
Yeah.
Reddit the game, people used to call it.
We were talking about the portrayals, and as I say, I can understand how a lot of these things were shifted to make it work a little bit better. Roland is trying to be a little funnier than Roland, the very straight, serious guy in Borderlands. And it's fine. It works for Kevin Hart. But again, it's just not enough. It doesn't go far enough.
It's a weird walking of the line because it's more comedic than Roland as a character is, but it's not as comedic as you would expect a role Kevin Hart was casting to be.
Exactly.
It's sort of not quite source material or leaning into the strength of the actor.
That's the kind of stuff I was seeing. When I say miscast, I guess I don't mean necessarily as Roland, but it was like Mace Windu, Samuel L. Jackson in the Star Wars prequels, where it's like, this is not that actor's remit. You don't pay to see that person be dull or play a plain character.
Yeah. But, even outside of the main cast, I will say, I think they did a really smart job of a lot of the, casting of characters you recognize in a way that feels really authentic.
Yes.
One of the examples that really stood out in my mind is, at the start of Borderlands when you're in that bus, and there's that bus driver who's...
Marcus.
Yeah, Marcus. He was cast really fucking well. They found a very good body choice and voice choice for that character. There's a little flash of what's the mechanic from Borderlands 2's name?
Scooter?
No. Female mechanic, larger lady.
His sister. I can't remember her name.
I'm completely blanking on her name. There's a very brief existence of her right at the end that you see, flat, blink and you miss it. But she was really well cast. I was like, oh, that's a really nice casting for her. Just attention to detail of who played what characters, I think they did well.
I agree. My larger point with all of this sort of portrayal discussion is I understand why changes would have been made, and I don't even disagree with a lot of the changes that were made. And I'm trying to look at this from the point of view of someone who is maintaining an objective detachment from a piece of media that I am very familiar with already. But there is one exception that I simply cannot abide. And it is deeply unfortunate, and I find it's deeply personal to me, and I think probably to you, Laura, as well. The portrayal of Tannis in the Borderlands movie breaks my heart.
Yeah.
They have softened her in such a way that she is emotional and anxious, not in an excited, pursuing the goal way, but in a nervous about the goal way. She has an emotional investment that she's demonstrating that, for me, does not suit that character as I understand them.
It's really weird, because I feel really conflicted about the changes made to the character, and I'm still trying to work out how I want to talk about this in, proper depth.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the changes that are made to this character I really enjoy in a vacuum, in that it almost feels like they've tried to turn Tannis into autistic representation in places. And there are certain points where I don't think it was deliberate, but, there is a moment very early on where she goes and asks another character, "Are you mad at me? I think you are. I'm guessing from body language."
Yeah.
And this very uncertain way it's asked, where I was like, I fucking love that delivery and line of dialogue. It's not Tannis.
See, yeah, it's fantastic dialogue, well delivered, for a different character. And all that needed to be changed to make it feel like Tannis is if the speech were direct and clipped, if there wasn't that sense of hesitance behind it.
Yes. Again, I feel like if you'd leaned slightly more into the autism direction of it, you could have got it back on track.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. But yeah, the other performance I will say I think kind of misunderstands the character is I don't love what they did with Claptrap. Claptrap's gimmick in this is I absolutely fucking hate the person I am travelling with and wish they were dead and would like nothing more than to not be on this quest.
It's a huge departure.
Yeah, that is, I always take Claptrap to be, look, I am a bumbling idiot that is not going to be much help and is going to be irritating, but fundamentally, I want to be included on this adventure. I want to be here.
Yeah, I am not going to leave you alone because that's my choice not to leave you alone.
Yeah, it feels like a weirdly cynical flip for that character.
It does, and yet, at the same time, and I do think Jack Black, is fine in that. He's putting on just a little bit of a voice, and then they have him modulated a bit. But
yeah.
He's putting it in, and it's working for the most part. The two moments of the film that I had a laugh are Claptrap jokes. And
there's a couple of them that got me.
Yeah. There's two of them. One of which I think is also the moment that the film does the best job of capturing the tone of Borderlands. So I'm gonna just describe this briefly. There is a moment where they have traveled in a cavern past a very dangerous thing. And Tiny Tina points out in the cracks between these stone blocks that a plant is growing up, and a light gets shined on it, blooms, and it's this emotional moment as she comments on how life survives. And then Claptrap drops down from the ceiling because he'd been taking an alternate route, lands directly on it, and the flower is completely not observed by him, and he's rotating his tire, grinding it on it, and it's this goofy little bit, and it's like, okay, so you know what you're doing here, right?
Yeah.
But when they're showing the flower before the punchline hits, I'm like, yeah, this is that movie. You've made this movie. And it sucks. And then it's even a little bit worse when the thing that should happen does happen. It's like, okay, you get it. Why have you made me feel like this was appropriate, contextualized material for this movie?
Other things I think are worth saying about this film. Its early pacing is rough.
Oh, its pacing is rough overall. This is a 90-minute film. It feels like an eternity.
Yeah. Specifically, I want to highlight the pacing at the beginning, because the beginning of this film feels like it feels like the creators felt beholden to visiting a bunch of locations quickly at the start you would know from the games, and in doing so, while not having either the time or the budget or the runtime to actually set scenes in those locations, there's a good portion at the start of the film that is Lilith goes to a place, we get a voiceover narration of the cool shit she did there, but you don't get to see it. Off to the next location, some more voiceover of cool shit you didn't get to see, on we go.
And this is a classic trope of many of these, many science fiction films, but in particular, science fiction films based on video games. They love expository voiceover so much.
And there are some stories that can get away with it. This does not get away with it either in the structure or execution of it.
No.
Other than that, the plot does a lot of very heavy-handed foreshadowing. This is going to be the important thing. This is going to be the important thing. We're telling you this is going to be the important thing. Do you reckon there's a twist coming? Because we're really pointing that this is going to be what's important. Oh, a couple of hints that maybe something else is going to be important instead. And then has the fucking gall to go, the twist? No one would have seen that coming. And it's like, it's so fucking heavy-handed. It did not earn hanging a lampshade on, we did such an amazing, unforeseeable twist. Fucking frustrated me how much it tried to congratulate itself for a twist it had laid on so fucking thick.
There's a part of me that kind of wonders if the approach is, we're going to put all of this stuff in here so the audience feels smart, but we know how dumb the audience is going to be for this movie. And so we have to make sure that it's clubbed over the head real well and good before it gets to that point. That could be.
Maybe. It doesn't make it feel any less patronizing how it was delivered.
No. Shout out to Gina Gershon as Mad Moxie, though. I'm always happy whenever I see Gina in anything. And she is delightful in this. Her accent is not good, but I don't care because she's Gina Gershon and she can't do anything wrong.
One thing about this film I thought was really interesting and genuinely kind of surprised me, and not in a good way or a bad way, but just in a kind of fascinated way. I always assume, when you get a film like this, that it wants to set itself up to be the start of a series. But several choices are made in this film that feel deliberately designed to shut the door on the possibility of sequels in ways that feel really unnecessary. I think that the clearest example of that is how many times this film tries to imply there is one vault, there will never be another hunt for a vault after this, there's one vault, one hunt for one vault that exists. And that feels like such a weird choice to make in a thing where you would probably want to follow this up. Given that this is it's kind of based on Borderlands 1-ish, I'm like, I would feel like you would try and set up the world that there is more vaults out there, that look, it's fucking cheesy, but I fully expected, here's the mid-credit scene of Handsome Jack to tease what we want to do with the sequel. It feels weirdly interested in not having itself followed up, and I don't know why that is.
If I had to guess, they were looking at the dailies of this film as they came back, and they thought, oh, this is fucked. We can't go back to these people and ask for more money. It's too embarrassing. It's awful. It's just awful.
It's
the action is so flat too. There's only one sequence of that works, and it's basically stolen from Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah. It also has this problem of, because it's got here in the UK it's got a 12A rating. And there's so many places where you can feel the awkwardness of having to file off the adult edges of the tone. It can be felt very early when you've got characters like Lilith having to go, oh, that darn SOB, this is some real BS. The way it's pronounced feels like they had to cut out some swears to hit their range, but it's also felt in more subtle places, like Krieg having a really, really, really limited selection of things he can shout, because he can't do any of his shouts from the game that get too into the weeds of what he would like to do with removing flesh from a person.
This is another thing that Hi everyone, Stephanie Sterling.
Hey.
I'm acting like a member of the press. I have questions about... Because I tell you what, right? I didn't give a fuck about this film. I gave such few fucks that I didn't even know it was out until it was out. I kind of in the periphery of my brain knew and the Borderlands thing was happening. I didn't even know they'd made one yet. But now I really care. Having heard how shit it is, suddenly I really care. And will watch this over all of the good films that I've been putting off. But I did want to point out that is another thing I saw criticised, was if you're going to make a Borderlands film, why is it not rated appropriately so that it can talk like Borderlands and have the content of Borderlands?
Because they wanted a PG-13 rating or the 12 rating for business decisions.
I mean, obviously, we do know that capitalism is...
Right, capitalism's the reason, but this is the thing that I find so fucking baffling about this choice. Okay, by all rights, if you were going to capitalize on the peak popularity of Borderlands, you needed to put this movie out almost 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You needed to put it out almost 10 years ago.
The last Borderlands game was what? 2019 was Borderlands 3?
They've done the Tiny Tina follow-up since, but yeah.
If you were 3 years old when Borderlands was at its peak popularity, it is appropriately rated for you now. I don't think you were into Borderlands at the age of 3. I don't think you probably became interested in it. So much time has fucking passed for these supposed kids that are going to be into this franchise. Well, it seems like the wrong call.
Yeah.
The thing that's interesting, and I'll bring a bit of perspective here as someone that I have the ability to go to the cinema an unlimited amount. My wife got me that as a birthday present last year, so I can just go whenever. And that means I see a lot more advertising for films than I imagine both of you do. And this has been being advertised for like a good 6 months. There's been Borderlands adverts happening. And the thing that has been consistent over 6 months of like different trailers that have different footage each time that change over the months. There's one scene that has been a constant. The only one scene that has appeared in every trailer over 6 months of trailers for this film. And that is the scene I will summarize as, "Ooh, we're driving into Pisswash Gulch. It's full of geysers and it smells of piss. Close the window. Oh, I didn't close the window. Piss got in the car. It got in my mouth. Piss got in my mouth."
I'm imagining that literally being the exchange, and that makes me laugh a lot.
That's the fucking scene.
It's really not off. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds brilliant. But bear in mind, I'm on Boston's favourite son, so that would make me laugh. But
point is, that has been the only constant of their marketing over 6 months, and it feels so indicative of exactly who they're trying to target this at. They're trying to get 11-year-old boys who are going to see piss go in someone's mouth and go, "Ah, that's rude and funny."
11-year-old boys and 40-year-old sad fuckers. Because I am creasing.
They want exactly the target market of piss in a mouth is funny and I like guns. And that is exactly like the entirety of who they're trying to laser in on.
Does it go in the mouth?
It goes in the mouth.
Oh my god,
yeah.
This isn't even sarcastic. I am genuinely laughing at
the whole point of the scene is Tiny Tina's told that's piss out there. I don't want to close the window though for no nebulous reason. Oh no, I swallowed piss now.
Oh dear. I mean, they're not going to beat the way Always Sunny in Philadelphia did it with the piss in the glass that gets thrown out the front window and then goes into the passenger window and hits Mac and he's like, "Piss! Is that piss?" That's very funny.
I mean, look,
sorry.
I don't hate it. It's just fucking not.
No, I get what you mean.
It's such a weird outlier.
I think you make a good point. If that is all it's got going for it, if they're like, "Oh, no one's going to forget this,"
no one's going to get tired of seeing this advert. That's the thing. No one's going to get tired of the piss joke.
Well, but they know how often people are going to the movies anymore.
Yeah.
Marketing yourself as the piss movie might be a case of honesty in advertising. Like, if that's the best we've got for you, gang, is piss.
It's also just, like, if I think of things that Borderlands has going for it, if we're shaving off, like, some of the 18 rating of the tone of it, outside of, like, the aesthetic of the characters and the general premise of the vaults and the setting, the thing that really defines Borderlands is its guns and the stupid, ridiculous, over-the-top nature of the weaponry that's being used. A thought I had watching this was, it feels like I'm watching a Saints Row 4 movie that didn't include the dubstep gun.
That's true. None of the guns do anything interesting. At all.
No, we don't get the gun that screams and talks back at you, or the crossbow that shoots tiny swords.
And we're told the guns are important, too. Like, that there's significance to them, that they have features.
That's easy content.
Right? There are like 3 or 4 times in this film where they walk past a market vendor who has the glowing holographic thing of a bunch of cool guns, and they never stop and grab a new gun to do something cool with or whatever.
Oh, that is lazy.
They don't even capitalize on, here's a throwaway opportunity to have a gun that does something weird.
A talking gun is like one of the easiest gimmies a film like this could have.
And not even one you have to commit to. It's like just a throwaway.
Yeah, your gun runs out of bullets, you look around, you grab something off the desk, the gun starts going, hey, I'm not your gun, put me back down, fuck off. And you're like, I'm just sorry, fudge off, because it's 12A.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're like, that was a joke that could have happened.
There are a billion very easy gags. Like, even if you don't want to copy the ones from the game, there are a billion easy gags you could do with a comedy gimmick gun.
And this film is
lazy.
bereft. This film is bereft of that kind of thing. And it's so necessary because, as I say, the pacing is slow. The dialogue is flat. It feels like a lot of these scenes were shot without the principal actors in the scene together. Like, yeah. It's very, very unfortunate that there was potential here. Like, there's a lot of things going for it, but it feels like the script just completely shits the bed.
And the thing is, it's not even bad in the ways that are, like, kind of funny.
No. It's like many of the video game movies that we've discussed on the spin-off Doctors, which is totally still a thing that happens. And I tweeted about this. We have had, between The Last of Us and the Super Mario Brothers movie, those two projects, I should say, represent like the culmination of literal decades of work to try and legitimize video game narratives in other mediums.
I would say The Last of Us, Mario, and we've just come off the heels of Fallout as well.
Fallout as well, yep.
It really feels like we hit a stride of, video game adaptation movies can be more creative than we've given them credit for.
They can both be more creative while still feeling very much like the thing that they are.
Yeah, and I don't know that this is even the worst video game adaptation out there.
Oh god, no. Not by a country mile.
But what it does is it feels like a really notable backslide to what video game adaptations to the screen were prior to this new era that felt like it had arrived. It feels like a relic of an old time.
It feels like going back to like the Assassin's Creeds and that sort of stuff. It's half in, half out, and neither of it works.
Yeah, it feels like it belongs alongside your Tom Holland Uncharted film.
Yes.
Where it's like, it's fine, it's doing its job, but it doesn't deserve to be in that category of, you made a genuinely standalone good piece of film out of the source material.
I would say it's hugely disappointing, but my expectations weren't that high to begin with.
Oh, yeah. I watched it 4 days after it came out. I knew what the reviews were like. I was like, I know what I'm in for.
I was somewhat hopeful with the trailers that they could make something interesting out of it that was enjoyable, but
I wanted to believe.
It just wasn't. It was just awful.
The disappointing thing is it really wasn't that far off.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have needed a lot to be pretty good.
Yeah. Tweaks here and there, and I don't know, a script that was worth a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Steph.
I can't wait to watch this.
What you been up to this week?
I played some games. I didn't watch any films. Actually, no, I watched The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. That was okay. Yeah. It has, Henry Cavill in it. And Carrie Elwes, which is always nice to see. It's always nice to see him in a new film.
I like a good Carrie Elwes. Yeah.
Yeah. He's putting on a British accent. He loves doing that.
He does.
He's a bugger for an English accent. I think I've heard him in a film with his normal accent maybe once. No, twice, but both of them were Saw movies. So they don't count. I played Creatures of Ava.
Oh, yeah.
I have had my eyes on this.
It's fine. It feels a little loose. It's got that sort of indie brushing up against bigger budget game kind of feel to it. Everything kind of looks nice and it's all competently done, but it just feels a little bit like the screws aren't quite tightened everywhere.
Yeah.
Interesting concept. You're on this alien planet. There's I forget what they call it on this one. I think it's just the infection or something. It's another one of these games where the big threat is the capital C corruption TM. It kind of works for this one, but after playing so many games where the darkness or the corruption or the infection or the whatever is the principal threat, this thing devoid of personality that makes or takes over things and robs them of their personality, like, I'm just kind of over it. But it is interesting. The main gimmick of it is your flute, where you play a little flute and then there'll be a quick game of Simon Says, basically. And it's got the music playing radial of Final Fantasy VII's piano minigame that everyone fucking hated. And I am playing it on the Xbox with the Xbox controller and its very enthusiastic analog sticks. And it's fucking annoying. But yeah, you'll play the flute, any animals nearby. Whether it's the animals you want to attract or not, they will force you to interact with all of them. They will make a little tune, and there'll be visual indicators, and then you repeat that tune, and then they follow you, and they've been tamed. And they follow you around. The general idea is you lead them to these pickup points, but there are environmental puzzles along the way, and you can solve those by... In-game or in-universe, they don't present it as possessing the animals, but you possess the animals. And then each animal has its own, like, set of little abilities. Like the little dinosaur-looking thing that you see at the beginning of the game that can bite this sticky stuff that's holding up bridges. So you can get it to cross a little tree root or something that it can get on, but you can't, to get behind the bridge you need lowered. So it can bite whatever's holding the bridge up and lowers the bridge, and you can cross and, you know, ferry like a mad Pied Piper your animals into these positions. There's also photographs, which I was a bit disappointed by. You can photograph animals and named characters, but there's not a lot of like scanning like your Metroid or that Metroid-esque game that came out a few years back. I was hoping you could do a bit more, like take photos of plants and stuff to learn about the world, but also they mapped the camera to the right D-pad and your healing items to the up D-pad, and when you've selected the camera, zooming in is the up D-pad. I drink a lot of health potions that I don't want to drink.
Yeah.
Combat is interesting. Enemies are infected animals, and you have a magic stick, and you essentially fix a beam on them a bit like a Ghostbuster, and that sucks the infection off of them. So you keep that held and keep that connected on them while dodging their attacks, which is normally fine unless there are like 3 or 4 enemies around, in which case getting attacked from off camera is something that will happen. It can be hard to avoid everything. Other than that, it's just sort of wandering around, collecting stuff, exploring. And it's all fine, for the most part. It's bog standard stuff. I don't love it, but I don't dislike it. I'm having a fine enough time with it. There are a few things that bug me. In the second main area, there are these plants that explode if you get near them, and they're everywhere. And they do a little bit of damage, but the damage isn't the problem. They put ink on the screen, like the blink is in Mario Kart, where they just sort of obscure your vision. But it stays on for so fucking long. Like, it is on screen for such a long time. And if you're in an area where they are everywhere, and it's really obscuring as well, like, it covers up so much, you can just about, like, work out where you're going. But any other details, you can forget it. The other thing that really gets on my tits is this is not a game that needed an inventory limit. It really didn't. Not when you're picking up crafting materials and exploring the world. And it's not a survival game in any sense. It is not a game that is trying to be all that difficult. There are little crafting stations dotted around fairly generously, which means you can offload stuff, although that itself is quite limited. You pretty soon learn to stop, like, gathering up every plant resource you find, because you will just end up getting full up. And it's not like the slots are 1 item per slot. Some items, pretty much all of your, like, buffs, like potions and things, take up multiple slots with the size of them. And it's so unnecessarily restrictive. It feels so petty and pointless. And it's like, this in no way, even people who go to bat for an inventory limit, there are people that are like, no, I like this for whatever reason. I think they'd be hard-pressed to justify it here. this is not the kind of game for which it could even be considered appropriate. And it is such a pointless restriction. So that's basically it. It looks pretty. It plays nicely enough. The writing's quite cute. There are these sort of furry little creatures that live on the planet, the sentient ones, and they don't quite understand humans, and their misunderstandings are quite amusing, stuff like that. Yeah, so it's very cute, and I'm not having the best time in the world with it, but it's something you can click on, and for something that's on Game Pass, you know? It's one of them games where it's like, if you've got nothing to do, it's on Game Pass, it's something to do. And that's pretty much my feeling on it.
Yeah. Well, I've got a quick one I can talk about that I've been playing. I played a demo years ago for a game called Paper Trail. I think I played this back in 2019 at EGX. And the game is finally out, and it's a really interesting little game. The general idea is that it is a sort of top-down puzzle exploration game where each environment you are in is a square of map that is a sheet of paper. And there is a different map on the other side of the paper, and you can turn the paper over, you can fold it over on itself, to change the layout of the map you are walking on. You cannot move whatever bit of the paper you are currently stood on, and sometimes there will be things like rocks that you'll have to move to a specific place to be able to change which bits of the paper you can fold, but you can sort of pull either the top, bottom, left or right of the paper or any of the corners and pull it down diagonally to fold the level in such a way that new paths are created you can use to navigate the level. And the way that the game handles this, I think, is really smart. There is a limit to how complicated these puzzles are ever going to get, because you cannot fold the page over a part that's already been folded. So you can only have, at most, one piece folded on itself. You can't have something else folded over that. Often puzzles will have environmental clues to sort of cue you into what things you might be trying to find a way to get next to each other. Such as some early examples, there are some dice in environments where, if I can get the dice face that's got a 2 on it to be next to the other dice face with a 2 on it, that's probably going to create a path that I can navigate. There is a good hint system that's available that you can, reset a particular room you're in, and then look at a blank piece of paper being folded in the ways it needs to be folded, without the context of the level itself to give you a sense of, this is roughly what you're going for, and it's not a complete solution to the puzzle, because it'll often be like, you need to fold the left-hand side over and then the right-hand corner down. Cool, where do I position myself so that I can make those folds? How do I move things around so that I can make those folds? But you at least have enough information to know what folds you are aiming for, which I think is a really good balance of how to handle those clues. There is a really cute story being delivered in it that is fully voice acted, does a lot of stuff with folding and unfolding paper to reveal parts of the cutscene unfolding. And that sort of tactility of having you be complicit in manipulating the cutscene to make it progress is really nice. I enjoy that a lot as a mechanic. Yeah, right now I am very much enjoying this as a play in little bursts, just chipping away at it. It's very relaxing. I'm very engaged with the tactility of it. It is a simple idea that they are finding a lot of really creative ways to make use of. Super into it. I'm going to be playing a lot more of it this week. What about you, Conrad? You played anything this week?
No, I have played nothing. I just watched that fuck-awful movie.
You sure did.
I like to imagine those are related. You watched Borderlands and now can't bring yourself to play any video games?
Nope, that's it. I'm done.
I wouldn't blame you.
I mean, let's face it, right? If Borderlands hadn't have been successful, the film wouldn't have been made. So this is on everyone who bought it.
It very much is video games' fault, really.
Yeah.
What about you, Steph? What else you played this week?
I've played Shadow of Rome. Who remembers that? No one.
The name's vaguely familiar.
This is a Capcom game.
Oh, no, I don't know this.
Yeah, this is largely forgotten. I played it when it was new. It's got its problems, but I did like it back in the day. Playing it on my Steam Deck now, I like it. It's got its problems. This is a game in which you are a gladiator in Rome, hence the shadow that you're under. It's an interesting little mishmash of ideas. The big selling point is big gladiatorial combat. You are, this character called Agrippa. And I tell you what, right? Go out with me on a Saturday night, you'll see the people calling me Agrippa and all.
Oh.
Penis is what I was talking about there. Wanking them off in the toilets. Sorry.
No, never apologise for wanking them off in the toilets.
Yeah. That was also me just making my plans for tonight. So, you're this guy, Agrippa. There is a plot, and the game loves its plot. It goes on and on and on about it, and I just want to cut someone's arms off. The combat stuff is dated in some ways, and fucking annoying when you're up against more than one person, because they will take cheap shots. But the conceit of it is really good, and when it's working, it's quite satisfying. You've got these weapons, they're dotted all around the arena, their durability is for shit, and that can be annoying, but in this one I will at least say they did build the game around it, and around having weapons constantly thrown at you, almost to the point where they feel like ammo. The idea is you grab a weapon off the floor, you start wailing on someone with it, and the different things you do will make the crowd more excited. So there are all these different moves, like if you dodge behind someone and slash them, that's its own move. I forget what they call them. There's some gimmick name for them. And the name of the move will like flash up on screen as well. So if you get behind someone and do a little quick button mash to suplex them over your head, like human catapult will throw up on screen and you'll get points for it, and the crowd will get more behind you. And that's the idea, is varying up your combat to keep the crowd on your side. And there is a command also to play to the crowd, like do a little showboating, little hot dogging and grandstanding, and that will get them to throw like other weapons in, or like meat that you can heal with. There are lots of different types of weapons, and some of them can have their own sort of special crowd pleasers. And there's quite a lot of variety for what at first glance would look like a simple beat 'em up. There's a lot you can do, like depending on your position to the enemy, depending on whether you can get their head or their arms off. And then, of course, you can pick up their arm and beat them with that, and that is its own weapon and with its own bonuses attached. As the game goes on, I've not gotten this far, but I do remember from back in the day, various arenas with traps and things like saw blades and stuff. It was doing a lot. For a game that's been forgotten, it was doing quite a bit. The main problem is it does too much, and by that I mean half the game is a stealth game that nobody wanted, asked for, and I don't even think it was advertised, because who cares? There's this second character who's trying to help Agrippa find like the real murderer of Julius Caesar and everything, which bit of a spoiler if you know basic history. Didn't really keep me on the edge of my seat for that. But he's off finding evidence, and it's like if Hitman was really unambitious. So you sneak about and you can knock enemies out from behind. If you've got a rope, you can like choke them out with it by tapping a button. Or if you've got a vase, you can smash it over their head, which is a bit noisier. And then you can wear their clothes. In like the first level, there are various bits where to get into the Senate house, you have to find a senator and dress up in his toga. Then when you get in, find a guard. You've got a whistle that can lure people to you and a bunch of vases to hide in, like big pots. Take his clothes, then that'll let you get further. Sometimes you'll be stopped and asked questions, and depending on how you answer, you can get away with it or make them suspicious. Again, for what it is, they are trying to do some stuff. It's clear the people behind this game really wanted it to do many, many different things. But the problem is, and it was criticised for this back in the day as well, I remember reading reviews about it, is no one cared for the stealth stuff. And it's a real whiplash to go so extremely from ultra-violent blood and guts, arms and heads flying everywhere, to, right, now you've got to sit in this vase for half an hour. Like, it's a real tonal whiplash, and the stealth sections are just not as well put together. Well, they're well put together, but they're just not excitingly put together. Once you know all the basics, all the basic controls, it's just that for the rest of the game. Just various hiding and dressing up. So that's a shame. I am appreciating, though, the emulated version's ability to quick save, because of just how quickly you can lose all your health in gladiatorial stuff, and how much progress you could potentially lose in the stealth sections. But it's been very nostalgic going back to it, because I can't remember when it was out. Must have been, early 2000s. And it was a game that, for whatever reason, I ended up getting hold of and played all the way through back then. And it's been really nice to reconnect with it. Very ambitious and weirdly trying to be 2 games at once. And not being terrible at either. It's just one of them was a bad fit. That's Shadow of Rome, a game that I feel would do well today. If Capcom had brought this back, they couldn't do a sequel. And I don't think a remaster would be all that great. But do like a spiritual successor, spiritual reboot, soft reboot, that kind of thing. Because, yeah, we could do with a really good sort of over-the-top, campy gladiator game, I think. Yeah, Shadow of Rome.
Yeah, you played anything else you want to talk about this week, Steph?
I've just played the new releases of Doom and Doom 2 that came out. Chum bucket of random shit, as one modder called it. I don't know if you've heard about that.
No, I have not. Tell me more about it.
I might make it Monday's video. So, there's a new release of Doom and Doom 2 that went up. It's on Game Pass, all of that jazz, cause Bethesda, cause Microsoft. It's got some cool stuff, as well as Doom and Doom 2, and achievements, all of that shit. It's got a whole bunch of the expansions and mods that came out all the years since, including a 2024 all-new chapter to Doom 2, which was quite exciting, with brand new enemies and stuff in it. The first 2 I've seen are just similar to the Lost Soul, so they're just floating ahead, which is a bit of a shame. But they were taken from sprites that never made it into the final game back in the 90s. So you've got these floating horned skulls that shoot plasma energy at you, and these screaming red, they're like tortured faces in a red mist that scream at you and then explode if they get near. Horrible noise. Fucking horrible. And then a proper original demon I saw just before I stopped playing last night. Like a proper goat skull-headed, black-bodied, flamethrower shooty kind of guy that looked really cool. The main problem with it is it's got a full suite of browsable mods that anyone can upload to, regardless of if they're the original mod's author or not. This has upset the modding community. I don't know if you'd be surprised to learn that modders don't like it when their work is uploaded without credit.
Yeah, I can't imagine they would.
Yeah, especially when it's something like the incredibly popular My House WAD that came out last year, which is a Doom horror game, which got a lot of attention back then. The problem is it utilizes features you only get in GZ Doom, that particular method of running Doom, and not the release that is currently put out by ZeniMax. So the version of My House that you play just crashes. You just start it up and it just crashes.
Yeah, leading people to have a negative perception of the mod that is nothing to do with the modder.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, there are people who are just having credits stolen. There's a lot of stuff that's like where the person at least said this isn't my work, but they're uploading it just happily. Today I played Mr. T Doom, that takes his likeness and voice files. So every time you shoot someone, he says, "Take that, sucker." I was creasing up at that just because something tells me Mr. T did not give his likeness to the game. Sally Acorn was a disappointment. There was just artwork of Sally Acorn from the Sonic franchise. I downloaded that one and gave it a go, but it's just regular type Doom. It just starts normal Doom. But it's just stuff like that. And that's just the console. I dread to think what it's like on PC if they're different. Over 700 mods are up now. And that was at the time of like yesterday. So who knows? It's also really hard to browse. They did a shit job of it. If you click on any mod, if you're like 3 pages deep into 53 pages, it will boot you back to page 1 if you click on any single one of them. And it does go up to like 50 pages. You can run some filters and stuff, but it's all bare bones bargain basement. It has been nice playing some of the mods that I missed out on. They've got like some of the proper famous full-on conversions like Harmony, stuff like that. And the new chapter was really, it's really cute that they put in a new one with new enemies and everything. And the levels are very intricate and very involved. And that's both a good and a bad thing. But yeah, Chum Bucket. Good old Bethesda. They Bethesda don't.
They sure Bethesda don't.
Mm-hmm.
So, should we do a couple of bits of news quickly before we finish up for the week?
I don't see why not.
So, first thing I want to talk about this week is the weird situation that has cropped up. Valve's got a new game. Officially they don't. They haven't said anything. Officially they don't have a new game.
Oh, you just reminded me. Do you still need an invite?
Oh yeah, if you can get me into this, go ahead.
Because I was given an invite. I do need to check to make sure it's proper legit, and I'm not going to click on something that ruins my life.
So let's talk about the situation here. If you were to ask Valve, they would say, I don't know what you're on about, but there is a game called Deadlock, published by Valve, that at some point this weekend it had over 20,000 concurrent players on Steam, and Valve has not announced that it exists. And seemingly what is going on is there is a build of some kind. It describes itself when you boot it up as a dev build or a development build, but I have my suspicions that it's meant to be a sort of soft launch. We'll get to that. That asks you when you boot it up, like it has a little box that says, please don't, like, show this off or anything, or like, you know, don't like stream it or anything. And it's not like a box you click yes to, there's just like a little X you click and it closes the window. And then there is a team-based hero shooter from Valve that is just there. And my understanding is, anyone who has a copy of this can just send an invite to any other user on Steam, and then they can also play the unannounced Valve shooter.
We can test that theory right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you an invite.
As I understand it, there is an OK or an accept in that box, and then there is an X to close the window as well.
Yes, that is my understanding. There is nothing that forces you to click OK, I agree, before getting access to the game. So, this all kind of blew up, because over the weekend, people were trying to stream the game, and within seconds of trying to stream it, they were getting matchmaking access banned. So, like, Valve clearly can tell when someone's playing the game and when they're playing it in a way they don't want them to, and ban them from matchmaking. But it doesn't seem like this is a dev build that, like, got to people it shouldn't have or anything. They haven't shut off access to just share it to whoever you want, or banned people who are playing it who shouldn't be. Gaming outlets managed to get their hands on it and start writing coverage of it. And then, you know, Valve fanboys started being like, but you said you wouldn't when you played it.
What is this fucking Code of Honor shit that we suddenly give a shit about?
Places like The Verge are basically going, I didn't sign a fucking NDA or anything, and it is in the interests of people for me to report on this, because 20,000 fucking people are playing a new Valve game that hasn't been announced. That is fucking newsworthy.
Yeah, just remember, Randy Pitchford tried to pull that shit when Eurogamer did some coverage on a game they didn't sign an NDA for, because it ate into Game Informer's exclusive. Don't be like Randy. That needs to be a poster, it needs to be put up in schools. Don't be a Randy. Be who's good?
There's nobody
Conrad. Don't be a Randy,
Okay.
Be a Conrad.
I don't know that I can sign off on that either, but
Oh, you don't have to. I bought the rights to your likeness in a fire sale.
It was cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you going to try and send me an invite to
I need
this?
to download the game first.
Okay.
We're currently at 4 gigabytes of 10.
We'll see if we can get this done before the end of the episode. But yeah, I've seen some stuff about it. My only guess is that this is a deliberate, slow rollout marketing tactic to get, like, I don't know. It seems like such a weird way to roll it out, but to also then try and shut down anyone talking about it or showing it off, but to let anyone fucking send it to anyone.
It does sound incredibly counterintuitive that you would prevent anybody talking about or sharing this product, and it seems like an incredible waste of resources and energy to, like, try and tamp it down. But also, everybody's fucking talking about it. Now, I don't think it was necessary. Like,
no, I think if you're Valve, anyone would have fucking talked about it anyway.
How long has it been since Valve put out a game? And I'm not talking, like, Half-Life Alyx.
I mean, bear in mind, like, marketing people are weird and will do weird things. I would be a bit surprised if this was all a marketing stunt.
I would too.
Just because it is a bit... It's not just weird, it's kind of stupid and pointless.
Yeah. It's so very strange.
Yeah.
Officially, Valve has not announced anything, but 20,000 people at once were playing Valve's next game at the weekend, so that's interesting, and we'll hopefully confirm by the end of the episode whether it is that easy to just fucking invite anyone to it.
9.8 gigabytes. We're almost there, so I may
We're almost there. We might as well just stick here and verify it now. Let's do it.
Here, we invite your friends. There we go. Now let's just... You, my darling, have a copy of Deadlock.
Huh.
I'll close that off for now.
And there's nothing that's like telling you there's a limit to how many others you can send out or anything. It's just...
Hell no. I just clicked invite friends, went to your name, clicked it, confirmed, off it went.
Okay.
Because of the amount that's going on, I've heard there might be a bit of a delay in it getting to you, but you should expect that.
Yeah, I've not seen it instantly, but yeah, this is such a strange situation, and I genuinely don't know what to make of it.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, like, similar to the Borderlands thing, the news of this Deadlock game had completely passed me by until it became a story.
So, it's been floating around, I'm going to say like 2-3 months. There was like a 3-hour-long video of someone playing like an early dev build that leaked. They've not done a good job keeping it under wraps. But this is different, and I don't quite understand what they're trying to get out of it by getting it in lots of people's hands. But if you talk about it or show it, they're like, no, you're not allowed to play anymore. Stop it. I'm like, okay.
I wonder how quickly I can get a review up. I want to join in being the target of angry
exactly.
Valve fans.
Go join in the Verve review a Valve game that hasn't been announced yet.
I think that might be Monday's episode, because I covered it before, and I think people need to remember that we all rightly shit on Randy Pitchford for doing that whole having a go at Eurogamer for not playing by rules that they were not subject to.
Yeah.
Like, we need to re-emphasize this. I had to do it years ago. I'm happy to do it again. The press are not the friends of, ideally, some of them are, but they shouldn't be friends of game corporations. They should hold them to account. If they have information that's of public interest, they should publish it.
If you would like me to not tell people about your upcoming video game that hasn't yet been announced, send me a review code under, like, hey, I will send you a review code if you agree not to talk about it, and I'll go, sure, that sounds like a mutually beneficial arrangement, and that's done.
Yeah.
Like, if you haven't done that, if you haven't gone out of your way to give me access, there's very little to say I shouldn't go, this thing's out here and 20,000 people are playing it, let's talk about it.
It's actually the unethical thing to do, to ignore the existence of something for the benefit of an exterior corporation's literal corporate interests. That's the opposite of ethics. It's not ethical to play by rules in a game you're not invited to.
Well, some other news we had this week. You know how Tango Gameworks got just completely fucking shut down not that long ago, and it was really sort of out of nowhere? Well, Tango Gameworks and the Hi-Fi Rush IP have been acquired by Krafton.
Yes!
Who are the publisher of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. There's a few specifics of this that I think are really interesting. The big one is that Krafton has basically said, hey, we're going to work with Xbox and ZeniMax to basically offer jobs back to all of the people at Tango Gameworks who got let go. And to ideally bring everyone back and go, hey, do you want to just keep being Tango Gameworks? You can come back and be Tango Gameworks again.
That's nice.
It is.
It's a nice thing to see, and it suggests, if nothing else, a recognition of, if you've acquired a promising new IP like Hi-Fi Rush, the best people to make a new one would be the people who have the experience and expertise and knowledge from making the first one. It would be great to get them back, because they know how to make the thing that you have acquired alongside the studio.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's like this practice that we have of laying off employees cyclically, you know. The way our projects are developed, a lot of times we see this, that they'll There are very big studios that can, move people around to different projects, as they develop in phases. But if you are an organization that has one big game, oftentimes what happens is your concept artists get laid off, or, this role gets, shifted around because it's not necessary at the moment. And you lose that talent and experience to other companies when they could be the people that are working on your next sequel or whatever. And I think that's a problem that we have sort of industry-wide, and bringing people back together in this way and trying to keep the studio whole, I think is better for everybody.
Yeah, honestly, this is about the best news I think could have come out of this whole situation is, hey, we recognize that Hi-Fi Rush was something pretty good. We want to get as many people who worked at that studio back to that studio and probably do something else with that interesting IP that was really promising, that everyone seemed to really like, that came out of nowhere and was really cool. I'm glad that studio and property didn't just fucking fall down a chasm never to be seen again.
Yep.
Another one we can quickly touch on, just because this is a story that constantly happens. I'm going to bring this specific story up, but this industry needs to stop doing this constantly. Shadow X Sonic Generations is being released in October. It's coming out in October. It is a remake of Sonic Generations with some new Shadow the Hedgehog content added in, but as of September 9th, you will no longer be able to buy the original Sonic Generations. It is being delisted from all online stores, and this is notable because this is the situation with a lot of these. The old version, it's really cheap because it's old, and a lot of people just want it. They're like, I'm not fussed about the new stuff. I'd like to buy the old one. I'll have that. That's fine. Nope, the old one's just going to vanish into the ether. Buy the new one, please.
Huh.
This industry fucking constantly does this, and it's... Yeah. Why let you buy a thing that's a few years old and getting affordable when we could sell you it again at full price?
Yeah.
Other bits of news this week that are going to sound familiar because we've had stories like this before. Roblox has been banned in another country. This time, Turkey. It has been banned to ensure the protection of our children, which sounds about right. The country's Minister of Justice wasn't very specific about exactly why it was being banned. He said in a statement, due to the content that could lead to the exploitation of children, the country is obligated to take the necessary measures to ensure the protection of children. But a report by Turkey Today reports that the ban was primarily motivated by reports of inappropriate sexual content on Roblox and exploitation of children.
Oh, that thing that is always a problem with Roblox, that they don't do anything about.
Here's the thing, and it's entirely valid, and it's important that it be addressed, and child sexual exploitation is just horrific and wrong, but that's the only exploitation of children that they care about here.
Yeah, it is fair to point out there is other kinds of exploitation of children, e.g. financial and work exploitation of children, for example, going on that is not being addressed here. And
I always get a little leery of politicians and governments using children, and fears around children.
I don't know, it worked out very well for Victorian workhouses, Conrad.
Right, but I'm worried about things like, there's legislation currently working its way through here that could really just destroy the internet as we know it in the United States, and it's being on the basis of we need to protect the children. And it just frustrates me that there's only one way that we're thinking about protecting children and willing to sacrifice everything for it.
I agree, and I think that is a fair point to make, whilst also personally feeling, but Roblox is a particularly outlying, shitty situation that is a
absolutely
proven repeated risk to kids.
Yeah,
that
it's
I'm
an evil.
not gonna lose a tear.
I
over.
approve of Roblox being shut down anywhere. 100%.
Yeah.
It's the reasons behind it that I have to occasionally cast side eye at.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that we see that all the time. It's never the thing. I mean, what is it they say about Al Capone? They got him on tax shit. Mm-hmm. It's never the thing that they did that was the most bad. especially when it comes to like corporate shit. They get caught on something that isn't what people have been screaming about for years. It's always something incidental, and you do kind of have to take the rough with the smooth on that, in that however it gets done, do it.
And to be clear, I don't want to downplay the seriousness of this, because it is serious.
Oh, absolutely. Like, it should never... Roblox should never have been in a position where it could ever get this far. And it is fucking horrific that it takes something that extreme. The phrase I use often that I got from you, Conrad, is regulations are written in blood. The fact that harm, like so much harm, excessive, extreme amounts of harm need to be done for shit to be taken seriously. And it is fucking shocking that Roblox has been allowed to continue. There is a wealth of evidence that it is a genuinely evil product. And yet, here we are.
Yeah. Last couple of quick news stories. Equity, which is the union in the UK that covers things like video game voice acting, has introduced new minimum rates in a bid to address systemic low pay for performers and improve working conditions in the industry. The situation is that, like, pay for actors in the UK has been, like, significantly worse than that of actors in Canada and America for a long time. And this is a particular issue that comes up whenever strikes are going on, because members of a different country's union who might not have the same strike protections will often be, those same game companies will come over and start asking actors over there to do work because, well, it's cheap and it gets us around the strikes and whatnot. Basically, these new rates are not going to impact indie developers. They are intended purely for AAA game development. They don't explain exactly how they define that, but they're like, this should be a minimum fee to start at for negotiation. So at minimum, you should be paying voice actors X amount, more in line with what people are being paid in America and Canada, which is positive to see. I know that Equity is having a problem right now that they cannot do a solidarity strike for various reasons with SAG-AFTRA, but are trying to find ways to be in solidarity with that strike, and it does not seem like an accident that at a time where there might be particular interest in American companies trying to seek UK voice acting work, that those rates are being raised to give one less reason to incentivize just hopping to UK people to strike dodge.
And, even if it doesn't have that effect, it does mean that your UK workers, that your union represents, are going to make dramatically more money than they otherwise would have. So it's a win for the union either way, and ultimately good for all of us.
Yeah, as is the case often with union victories, a win for a union is usually a win for more than just the union. Their wins tend to ripple a bit. And last up this week on the news, we've all been a little bit skeptical of that Bloober Team Silent Hill 2 remake, right? I think that's fair to say.
I've said a word or two about my misgivings and my worries.
Yeah. Well, the CEO of Bloober Team would really like it if you would trust them to make a good Silent Hill 2 remake. That you'd just, trust them, that they're gonna do good.
We did. It was called The Medium, and it fucking sucked and was shitty.
Yeah, to go through some of their quotes they gave to Rolling Stone, I am dreaming that gamers will trust us, but I realise that trust is earned through actions, not through words. That's why we have a policy of not commenting on the specifics of the game and raising hopes. We want to show our ambitions through our work, so we can't ask for anything more than give us a chance. I think asking us to give you a chance is already asking a bit more than you've earned.
Well, the thing is, I was glib, but they've had a chance. The Medium, everything Bloober Team has made has clear evidence of their inspiration of Silent Hill, specifically Silent Hill 2. The Medium being one of the most overt, there was quite a bit of it in Blair Witch as well. They've had a chance to show that they can handle a horror experience with symbolism that deals with mental health. There is a reason why people are terrified about how they're going to handle the character of Angela. Held up as one of the best characters in all of video games, not just by the standards of the time, not just by the standards of video games, but by the standards of media. Angela, as a representation of trauma stemming from abuse and PTSD, is incredibly well observed. There is so much relatable in Angela's behaviour, and you compare it to like the modern that Silent Hill,
the short message,
with the whole you put a curse in my womb, like just the cartoon levels. People are terrified of how Bloober will handle Angela because Bloober has had more than one chance to handle trauma and mental health, and they've blown it every time, to the point where, as I've said before, to the point where the ignorance has become indistinguishable from malice.
Well, here's the thing, Steph. They're gonna make changes to Silent Hill 2, and I've got a little quote about it here.
No.
We tried to make all possible fans happy, but at the same time, we wanted to be very faithful to ourselves. I really hope that when people play for the first time, they will understand that the choices we made were the best possible. Please understand why we changed the things that are being faithful to Bloober Team's design style. Please understand why we've bloobered this.
This seems like the beginning of a bit of a walk back from, oh, this is going to be one-to-one faithful, this is going to be so authentic, and now it's, we gotta make some changes.
Well, it's gonna be faithful, it's just not gonna be faithful if that means, not being true to ourselves as Bloober.
Yeah. Now look, if Silent Hill 2 comes out, the remake comes out and it's great, awesome. I will be thrilled. Silent Hill 2 is my favourite game. I recently replayed it twice, once on stream. I've been watching all sorts of deep dives and stuff on it just because at the moment Silent Hill 2 is super on my mind. And for the past few weeks it's been like a bit of a hyperfixation of mine. I fucking adore that game for many reasons. Some nostalgic, some, because it's such a unique horror experience, and some because as I've gotten older and gotten more knowledgeable about my mental health and mental health issues in general, it only becomes more meaningful and it only becomes more special. And I'm often not the one with a massive amount of emotional investment in a remake of something, but this is my one. This is my thing. And Bloober is a studio that has done nothing but offend me, not just in terms of its terrible handling of subject matter, but in its terrible handling of horror. So much of their horror is hackneyed, it's hack grade, bargain basement, the door's locked, but the door you went through is open in a different room now, or here's a corridor that goes on forever until you turn around. It's like such fucking first grade shit. And that's before we get to, traumatized are you? Abused were you? Here's a gun. You know what to do. Like, fuck
It's the only way to stop it.
Can't save everyone. Christ.
Certainly not your fucking self.
No.
Fuck Bloober
They've
Team.
had their chance, and they've blown it. And the thing is, they've blagged another because Konami is Konami, and of course they'd go for Bloober. Out of all of them, out of every developer in the world, go with Bloober fucking Team. So they blagged their way to not just another chance, but this is, they're having a crack at the champ. They're the big time now. And I don't like to predict things. I don't want to just say they're gonna fuck it up. But I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt. I have nothing but doubt about them.
Yeah. So that's it for this week. I think that's all the stuff.
I have one other thing that I just observed that I need to raise because I'm dying to hear Steph's thoughts about this, and I don't know if you saw that yesterday. 2 games developed by WayForward were announced. They're in a 16-bit action platformer style, and they're based on Halloween and Ash vs. Evil Dead.
I just saw. Oh wow. Okay.
And now here's the other wrinkle in this that's curious. If you purchase both games, you can cross the characters over into them. And seeing what we have with crossover stuff and how tired it is, I'm interested to see how they handle it. And I was kind of wondering what you thought about this as a move.
So, I had 2 initial knee-jerk reactions. My first knee-jerked, and I was like, oh, that's a really cool, interesting idea. Then my second one jerked and was like, should I hate this on principle? Not even based on crossover stuff, but based on my criticisms of the Pokemon series of making you buy two things.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it's a cute idea. That's what I will say. It is a cute idea. And I think where I'm feeling immediately more lenient towards this than I would about something like that Warner Brothers Multiverses game, something like that, is, first of all, it's appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
They're horror properties.
Mm-hmm.
Ash was one of the original sort of crossover guys.
Yep.
Not necessarily in his home medium, but comic books, Ash has versed a lot of things.
A lot.
He was going to be in the sequel if they were planning to do a Freddy vs. Jason 2. And it was going to be Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, which would have been fucking awesome. So there is actual history there. There is actual genre appropriateness, and it's a cute idea. It all makes sense, and that's one of my biggest issues with something like Multiverses. I've been calling, the battle for context. Let's take all of these characters out of their original world, out of the media that made them, so that they are just IP. Let's just smash intellectual property together. Part of what makes this work is Ash is a very strong, recognisable character. Michael Myers is a very strong, recognisable character. And they're crossing over from their own titles that will be about them. The context is there. So in terms of it being appropriate to the genre and each game having its own setting, I think this is one of the better examples. And I do need to reiterate, as I have done when I've talked about this, I'm as big a sucker as anyone else. I'm not against a good crossover.
God, no.
There have been crossovers I have loved. I mean, Freddy vs. Jason is a better movie than any of the Nightmare on Elm Street and, well, especially the Friday the 13th films.
Yeah.
It's certainly better than it had any right to be. So done well and done appropriately, it's good. The one thing this suffers from, and it's not its fault, it's because of everything we just had to have a conversation about. This feels inherently less special because there's so much of it. So the idea of Ash crossing over with Halloween, that's why my first thought wasn't, oh, that is so exciting and cool. It was, oh, that's an actual cute one. That's where we're at now. We have to be like, oh, this one actually makes sense. I'm not excited about it because I've watched Jason Voorhees stab Bugs Bunny in the face. I've become so fucking numb to all of this. But that is cute. And I was very excited to hear about the games. That news did pass me by, so
Thank you for catching that, Conrad.
Yeah.
It was on my list, and I just the link didn't make it over.
No, that's going to be cool. Also, I like that it's based on Ash vs. Evil Dead, which I'm
Yes.
overdue a rewatch of. That is a hell of a good series.
I only watched the first half of the first season, and I got distracted and never made it back, and I really should. I bet Linda would watch that with me.
Did you see the fight in the sperm bank?
No, I don't think so.
Ash fights a deadite in a sperm bank, and it's glorious.
Oh, okay.
What happens is what you're imagining it.
Does he get cum in his mouth?
I don't know if it goes explicitly in his mouth, but there is cum everywhere.
Fun little fact. Jonathan.
Of course you brought him up.
Jonathan's apparently known about this for a fucking while.
Of course he has.
Apparently, you could go dig through an old print interview of his and find out something new about this game that's just been announced, apparently. He's been sat on this for a bit.
I wish I could say that about Jonathan regarding something else.
Oh. Is it penis?
It is my penis.
It's penis.
Yeah.
We should wrap up.
Is that...
We should wrap up, yeah.
Yeah, we should.
Oh dear, before we get cum everywhere. Laura,
Me?
you are productive. Not in the way my penis will be when it's in Jonathan, but you produce a lot of work. And I'd love to hear about it.
I do. You can find all the stuff I do at Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere on the internet. This week, I've got an episode of Accessibility going up about virtual queuing systems and how they could be implemented into sort of game convention type events. You can also go check out the VOD for a talk that I was invited to do as part of a panel at the Black Girl Gamers Summit. I was invited to talk with some other people about video game accessibility. It was a really lovely talk. I very much appreciate being invited to speak at that event. You can go find the VOD up on YouTube. Alongside, I would recommend just watching all of the talks that came out at the Black Girl Gamers Summit. It was a really wonderful event. Some really good educational content there that's well worth checking out. Other than that, keep an eye out next week for a bunch of stuff coming out of Gamescom, because I'm gonna be covering Gamescom stuff next week. What about you, Conrad? Where are you at on the internet?
Oh, you could find me at Conrad Zimmerman on Instagram and Blue Sky. You can hang out with me on Twitch at twitch.tv/thatconradzimmerman. I'm on there Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays. You can buy anti-capitalist propaganda and Jimquisition merchandise at mercenarycreative.com. And everything I do online gets supported through Patreon at patreon.com/fistshark. And you know who else has a Patreon? Stephanie Sterling.
That is correct. Patreon.com/Jimquisition, which supports this show and the Jimquisition, which this past week was called No More Room in Hell. Something about economies rotting. It's about the rot economy and the lack of innovation in the tech sector as a result of them having completely run out of ideas and run out of old ideas to repackage. So we are truly in a world of disintegrating products. One of my best episodes ever, as far as I'm concerned. We did use a few too many gory clips from films. I apologise for that. We will not do that again. Also, my next wrestling gig is this weekend, or August 17th. I will be in Preston. This is the big municipal Preston show that we do every year. One of my favourites to do. It's literally out in the high street. You don't even need tickets. Just go do your shopping, then have a gorp at me. My next date after that will be September the 1st. I'll be back in Huddersfield for Tidal Wrestling. And then September 20th, I'm going to be in a cannot miss match. It's not against Kid Bandit, but it will have a very similar vibe. That's September 20th. That's in Leeds. That's for True Grit. Big stip match. It's going to be fucking awesome. And that's that. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it and for supporting and all of that. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.